Okay, doing a, oops, oh, sorry about that. I'll be more gentle with the camera. Um, Doing another quick video about what's going on in the boat shed, and then some comments on silver and gold and upcoming events, just to keep everybody's interest in reality and how it's shaping up. Inside the boat shed here, we're going to be looking at some construction we're doing in carbon fiber for the both the utility tube and the carbon fiber crane. These are circular structures. Neither one is tapered. They're tubes. We need to attach items to them in the way of hardware, various rigging components, everything from control lines to backstays, or actually it's athwartships midstay on the Proa. But in any event, so we need to attach things. I'm not inclined to go and drill through the carbon fiber or the aluminum. The aluminum could take it. Actually, the carbon fiber tube could probably take it. The number of small holes we would need for attachment points, but it's tedious and it wears down the damn drill bits, especially the aluminum. Drilling those holes in the aluminum was just hellacious. So rather than deal with that, I've decided to go ahead and put on collars, clamps on the tubes that we can really reef down on, so they just won't shift no matter what. That will allow us to then attach our everything from turnbuckles to blocks and block and tackle for raising and controlling the crane, as well as for moving the sail up and down and all the stuff that needs to be done. So in order to do this, what a method I've used in the past that works really well is to create these things that we call Oreos around here. And it's a carbon fiber with it's carbon fiber sandwich with a layer of biaxial or triaxial heavy fiberglass in between. Now in this case, we have to make them such that they're curved to the arc of the tubes. In both cases, I'm not trying to make a complete circle to fit around the tube. I'm trying to make two halves of that with a slight separation so that we can use bolts to clamp the thing very tightly. And so we're making a bunch of half circles here, and we're using the Oreo mixture here of the black carbon fiber, the very dense white triaxial cloth in this case, very heavy. I think it's oh, I'm not really sure where it is on the scale. Maybe it's 20 ounce triaxial, very heavy stuff, and then carbon fiber over that with a little lip, and then you drill holes through the little lip, put in either washers or a metal plate, and drop your bolts through that, and the carbon fiber and the fiberglass won't twist, it won't torque, it won't break. The parts that would shear first would be the bolts. That would be the weak point in the whole structure. And so it's relatively easy to make these components out of carbon fiber and resin, even doing hand layup. There's a couple of little things you have to do to make them come out looking sort of professional. There's in our cases here, I'm going to have Cale do a lot of the cleanup work, so I don't have to do it. He had to go out today, so he's just going to look out and do the cleanup tomorrow. But I'll turn the camera around now and show you our molds and stuff, and try not to blind you with the lights I've got. Our heater is this long tube, and its glow plug is broken, so I've had to get a replacement. Now what we're doing here is that's why I've got the lights going, is to maintain heat. What we're doing here is to use this piece of pipe, which happened to have the 6-inch diameter that we needed, as our mold, and it's covered with plastic. And as you can see, it's got a styrofoam bit that was cut to provide us with a ledge upon which we can make a lip that can be drilled through later on to form the big clamp component here out of the carbon fiber. These are for the aluminum utility tube that holds our crane. And they're going to be trimmed down. There will be another layer of resin and carbon fiber put on this end, on this side here. And then this stuff we call our armor mix, which is fumed silica as a modifier with microbeads, but primarily a lot of fumed silica, not as a flux, but ultimately as a rigidifier. So this will all be cured out in a couple of days. It's going to take a while because it's sort of cold here, but it won't stick to the plastic. it's an interesting process because here's the really interesting part to this. As you're doing it, carbon fiber is notorious for being a problem to wet out with the resin. You can wet it out in this case here really easily because the resin wants to go through the first layer of carbon fiber. There's 3 layers of material here, by the way. There's carbon fiber. I don't know if we can see it. A bit of the white showing is the fiberglass, and then another layer of carbon fiber. And when you do that first layer of carbon fiber and you're putting the resin on, it wants to go through there and it wants to stick to this plastic, which is just the same 6mm plastic we're using to cover everything. The good part is that that's true while the resin is wet. It really wants to go through there and stick to that plastic. But as soon as it cures out, it doesn't stick to it at all and you can just peel it right off. That's why we use a cling film and the 6mm plastic to separate for as mold remover, really. Now on this one here, we're doing these are for the as part of a series for our carbon fiber tube that is our crane that holds up our sail. And so these are done on a smaller diameter plastic PVC pipe. Again, the same situation. While we're doing this, it wants to stick to the PVC pipe, but once the resin is cured, it'll pop right out. And then we reuse these pieces to make another group, and then we've got a bunch of these collars that can go up the mast for attaching various bits and pieces of material to the to that tube. It's a crane, really. It's difficult to not call it a mast because it sticks up in the air. The material we're using here is the carbon fiber twill cloth. We're going to do a bunch more of that. And this heavy-duty triaxial cloth. Anyway, the other aspect of this that we're going to show you, that I'm going to show you here, has to do with how we've attached the mast crane to the utility tube. Okay, out in the area immediately in front of the boat shed with the boat, I've got the crane mounted on the utility tube, and you can see that we're set up on a 2x4 structure that we've made with some plywood and a large bolt. This would probably function just perfectly well if we were more serious about it and really clamped it down. It's a mock-up though, to allow us to take some measurements, but basically we're going to replicate this in carbon fiber and fiberglass on a foam core just to get it down lower and bring more of our crane surface down closer, and then have giant clamps to hold it to the tube. But as you can see, it gives us our degree of motion that we need and allows for control ropes to control the position of the mast for the swing of the sail back and forth. So the rigging here will go fairly quick as we go along. We're going to replicate this part, as I say, in fiberglass and carbon fiber and foam, make it really skookum and very rigid. We're also going to restrict the amount of bend we've got by the arc here, and then the crane here goes way up. I mean, this angle is way too low. I was just using it to run sheets up for control line and then also the backstay. So we just had it lowered down for a bit. Getting a lot of practice in that, fortunately or unfortunately, I don't know. In any event, so things are trucking right along here. And we're picking up on the, for those who haven't seen, I'm going to take us into the boat for a second here. Those who haven't seen this, it's kind of cool. I can't raise the door up all the way, but once the crane is lifted up, we're good. The sail is over there. A little bit of water because I need to put on a better door seal here. But this is basically the view that you'll have as you're sailing about in Puget Sound. And let me set this back down. Okay, so the stuff about silver and gold. We've had I don't want to say a flurry. I want to be as specific as I can. We've had a rise in data sets for silver that is remarkable. comes in as clumps. So it's not really like a continuing rolling amount of data flowing in. It's like we're processing through specific clumps, really, or not specific clumps, but within clumps of data that are primarily about and referencing silver and gold. Some of these data sets, when we put them into model space and pop them up, are showing that something's going to happen. It's starting to rain here for us, or to us, or about us, or with us all in like the third week in November. And that this is probably not a good thing so far as we're concerned, because the emotive sums are are relatively high but negative. So it's not like the Ode to Joy where they're relatively high and positive. Here we are at a relatively high number on a minus scale for the third week in November, for the general milieu, if we can say it that way. And that third week in November, it's not troubling. It's not like end of the world. It's not like space aliens. We have a lot of stuff about alien wars that's interesting too, but nothing saying that, we're going to be attacked that day or anything. However, a great deal of it is suggestive that there's going to be a huge rise, and by huge we might be talking $5, but a huge rise in silver over the course of the first part of December. It may be much more than that. We don't get numbers. What I've got is is a series of emotional sums that when we plot them out, they go into this like where we're at now. It's sort of grinding upwards, and then we hit this bloop of the activity in the third week in November, and then there's this spike upward for emotional sums for the stuff in early December. I'd have to say maybe sometime by, say, the December 10th. We'll know a lot later here, a lot more as we get into the data sets in November, because a lot of this is immediacy data. And so it's bringing along short-term values that are plopped into the model space and do the forecast. But the closer we get, the more detail we get, and the more detail, the better we can plot a time. So at this point, I'm saying third week in November through to, say, like I say, let's just say the 15th of December, about the middle of the month. Somewhere in that period of time, those 4 weeks, we're going to get a fairly large relative. This is what we're seeing, is a very large emotional boost in silver. Now, this emotional boost is saying within the data set, so we have a bespoke data that says that the price is going to increase in the paper currencies of the world. There's all kinds of other data sets there that will go into within the Alta report, some details as to basically what the data is saying as to a why, and this kind of thing. I don't know about stocks. We don't follow that in particular, but the emotional sums would seem to indicate a very negative economic whoozy was it of some unknown nature at its core is going to be manifesting within that third week in November. And it starts really getting to us about the 12th of November. And so we've got real jumpiness in the activity as we're plotting model space from about the 12th on. And I thought to just sort of drop those dates in and let everybody know that, if you're concerned about things in terms of like, food supply or making job decisions or this sort of thing, from the 12th of November through to the 15th of December, we're going to get a period of time where you may want to be paying much more attention to what's going on in the outer world when you're making those decisions, simply because you may need to know some of that stuff as background, like what's happening to the dollar, what's going on with currencies, that sort of thing. But we've had this third week of November showing up for maybe a month or more, and no clear indications yet as to exactly what we're rolling into. That is within the way in which the short-term data works, where sometimes these events pop up within this 3-month window, and it's not until we get into the third week away from it and start getting immediacy data that we get any of the details. Usually, if we're lucky enough to have caught something in the long-term data way back out, then we can usually figure out what's going on while we were within the short-term data. Thus the discrepancies sometimes on our forecasts as to why sometimes we're incredibly accurate. And it depends on where we can see it and how long we can plot against it, so to speak. Anyway, that's it for now. I'm going to keep doing these updates as we run across some of the data because it's very interesting and very key times at the moment. You know, basically, shit is hitting the fan. The fan's been turned on to high, and it's being aimed at us. So now it's incumbent on everybody to learn to duck. We'll see you guys.